You know, I was very surprised to hear the like Initium and Unholy and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Um, when I saw them live for the first time, I saw them three times. When I saw them live for the first
Amazing.
time, the difference was it was like night and day. And I know at the time Glenn was listening to like a lot of like stuff like Alien Sex Fiend,
Yeah.
you know, in the early to mid '80s, and that stuff was kind of I don't know if he was kind of going for a sound like that, but the studio that they recorded at, Real Platinum, I actually recorded there once with a friend of mine that asked me to play drums with him. And I don't know how much you've ever delved into, you know, Bob
Bob
Allecca.
Allecca.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, his studio was he was not, he was a nice guy, and I only met him one time, but he was really not used to recording rock music. He did a lot of like dance type stuff.
Mm.
And he was one of those guys from what I remember, and I was like 17 at the time. I
Yeah.
remember he wanted to be one of those guys that put his own personal sound to things. You know, like
Right.
you listen to Initium, you hear the tom toms and the drums sound electric. Now maybe Glenn wanted it that way to go for a certain sound, but I think the stuff that was coming out of that studio, what Bob was hearing and the way he was recording it and processing it had a lot to do with that. But when I saw them live, you know, with Marshall amplifiers and stuff, it was very powerful. It was a big difference from the records. The songs, even, you know, the delivery of the songs, like the guitars were always kind of buried. Even on a lot of the Misfits, you know, like
A lot of it's buried.
a lot of it's buried. To finally hear it loud, you know, coming through a stack was like,
Yeah.
wow, this sounds so much better than the record. You
It's
know,
a
that was a big
shame.
thing for me.
It's a shame that we've never gotten proper remixes of any of that stuff because this is my personal taste. I think I'm not a fan of any the mix of anything Glenn Danzig related. I always feel like it's never mixed in a way that or it could always be mixed better. Maybe that's a
Mm.
better way to put it. I just think, and again, when you look at like Misfit stuff, all of it is a bedrock. It's just bedrock for the voice, right? So what
Yeah,
does it matter if it's all down, muddled in a mix? Like
yeah.
it's just, in his and probably in his mind, I don't know because I'm not Glenn Danzig, but maybe in his mind it's just like, yeah, the it's the voice, and then the music is under the voice and
Yeah.
whatever,
That could be. I mean, also it could be the recording equipment. You know, I know that they were always pressed for time, had to come in under a
True,
budget.
true,
Some people like myself over the years would say, okay, I'm going to spend a day recording the drums and seeing how they sound, or I'm gonna try a mic here on the Marshall, and then you
right.
know what, I'm gonna move the amp to another part of the room and I'm gonna see how it sounds there. Like if you're just gonna go in bing bang boom, I gotta knock out 5 songs, which I've also done. Sometimes what you come out with is that's it, and you know, here it is, which isn't
You,
necessarily a bad thing either, because you know it's not, you don't toil over it for days, and you know, you lose the inspiration, and you know, it's like the excitement, the intensity, the immediacy of it sometimes could get lost if you you know, go over it too much.
two
You know, that
things.
also could be.
Two things. One, I'm not a musician. I always make this disclaimer. So I honestly don't know that process. And
Hmm.
that makes so much sense to me, what you're saying. Like, that makes sense. Like, you go in, it's like all of these things that sort of, all of these variables that maybe one doesn't think about. Like when you're on a budget and you're trying to nail out your songs, you don't really have time to, as you said, you don't have time to check these things out. And the second thing I was going to say, oh shit, I already forgot it. It literally went out my other ear because I was trying to hold it in my head. That's what I get for not listening.
But you know what?
Yeah,
But seriously though, like one thing that, like, talk about the Static Age record, right?
yeah,
Now, obviously, we've all heard the stories about how they had X amount of time to go in
right.
and record that. Even though the record, to me, sonically sounds very flat and one dimensional, I think the recording of it is probably, besides Earth AD, which is totally overblown, the Static Age recording is my favorite because
It sounds the best.
it sounds very real to me. Like Mr. Jim's drums, that's the way the drums probably sounded in the studio. Not
Mm.
They didn't throw a bunch of shit on it. They didn't try to make it sound big. The studio was probably pretty good, but hey, we're here from midnight to 7 a.m. or whatever, a couple of days or whatever it was, and this is it. They didn't spend a lot of time trying to build stuff up, or and I think Glenn played guitar on some of that stuff because Frenchie didn't know all the songs, but
Huh.
it
That's
just
the first time
sounds.
I've ever heard that.
Yeah, to me it just well, that was I think that was on the Misfits Central website when it kind of broke down the sessions, like
Huh.
that Frenchie was kind of new in the band and he didn't know all the songs yet, so Glenn had laid another guitar track down. And if you listen to the outtakes at the end of the Static Age CD, you can hear like two guitars going. And
Oh.
did you ever listen? You've listened
Yeah,
to
no, I
those?
totally have, but
Yeah,
I
like where
never
like
thought about that.
you hear Glenn whisper into the mic like, I'm going to try sitting down on this one because I'm not doing well standing up, and you hear like a guitar noise.
But I always thought that was his singing. He sang all of Static Age sitting down in a chair. It's my
Oh, I didn't know.
understanding.
I did that. I didn't know. But you could in some of the outtakes, you hear one guitar stop and the other one keeps going. So
Yeah,
I was like, were they doing it live? Was Glenn playing along with it?
interesting.
I always wondered that. It's never been confirmed, but
Right,
that's what I've heard,
right.
what I've read.
I'm trying to remember what the second thing that I was going to say. We're talking about mixing. You're talking about all the constraints of going in there and recording, and maybe there's something about Bob Alecca's studio and the way that he recorded.
It
I
was in
don't
a
remember.
Bob Allecca studio was in a basement, and if I don't remember if it was tape or if it was the beginning of digital recording,
Yeah,
but I do remember going in there and he had a little drum set kind of set up in the corner, and he had a little control room, and like the drums sounded okay, but then when my friend played me back what he recorded, I'm like, this doesn't sound like. And then I'm just thinking to myself, well, that was the first time I was ever in a studio. So I'm like, all right, maybe that's just the way it comes out. Like I didn't know any better, or maybe
right.
that's just the way Bob wanted it to sound. And that's the way, it came out. Because a lot of engineers that I've noticed that I've worked with over the years, a lot of engineers feel like they want their studio to have a signature sound based on the equipment
Right.
they have and for popularity of themselves. Oh, Bob Allecca recorded this, it sounds great, I
Like
want to go
Sound
there.
Studios, like the mixing desk at Sound
Yeah,
Studios.
yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, even stuff um like when we go to Kevin's and record, like Kevin has everything VOD was recorded at Homebrew Studios. And the first time many years ago that I had gone in there with another band, you kind of feeling your way through, and how does he work, and is he open to our ideas? Does he want to? Is it my way or the highway? But as you go over time, you can do it in your sleep. Like, okay, he's going to use a 57 or a 421 on the amp. The drums are going to be here, this and that, and then after a while, it's like it's a no brainer. It's just plug and play, and it's going to sound great because you've done it so many times with the same person.
Right.
He knows your sound rather
Right.
than him trying to make you sound the way he wants you to. That's the difference between some engineers. Some engineers, I want it to sound my way, and some engineers are like, you do it and I'll capture it.